So it seems to me that the only differentiator remaining is the people that you put on the field and know how to use that technology and learn faster than the competition and iterate faster than the competition and test and make mistakes and are better at analyzing data, asking the right questions. So I'm actually thinking that the people part will become more important than AI or the technology part.
Welcome to the New Talent Playbook Podcast, your go-to resource for building exceptional teams and thriving businesses. Each episode delivers actionable insights on harnessing offshore talent, integrating innovative technology, cultivating a vibrant company culture, and attracting and retaining top performers. Subscribe now to never miss an episode. For more resources, visit the newtalentplaybookpodcast.com, where you can download this episode's free workbook designed to help you apply today's insight to your business. And now, here's your host, Rob Levin.
Today I'm joined by Jeff Hyman, who has built a legendary career in executive talent acquisition, and his expertise has shaped some of the most successful leadership teams in business today, and present company included. He's a serial entrepreneur who created 4 companies backed by $50 million in venture capital and translated his recruiting insights into the best-selling book, Recruit Rockstars, and his strategic thinking regularly appears in CNBC, Inc. magazine, Fortune, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal. And if you are not a subscriber to his newsletter, I can't recommend it enough. Jeff, welcome to the show, and let's dive right in.
I am so excited, Rob. Let's do it. We can go anywhere you want to go today.
All right, well, let's start with this one. Like you, I write a lot about talent, and I speak, and I got the book, and all of that. And I think that there's been more change, certainly in talent acquisition and retention in the past 6 years as opposed to the past 30 years. What's your reaction to that? Would you agree, disagree? And either way, what are your thoughts on how talent and hiring and retention in particular is changing?
I agree 100%. And I'll go one step further to build on it with a real example that literally is timely because I read this yesterday. I would say in the past 6 months, it's changed X times versus 6 years ago. The pace is accelerating, the pace of change in talent acquisition. And I'm not just referring to using different sourcing tools and things that always come and go. I read a case study yesterday by a sizable mid-sized company that most people would know. And they went in with an open mind to this idea of AI phone screens in which the candidate speaks with an AI agent, with voice, of course. And this has kind of been floating around the past 18 months, 2 years. But this company said, we want to actually see if we can force every candidate through the process. And of course, if it worked, that would be amazing because you'd cast such a wide net, see so many more candidates, but you'd also get the summary and the essence and learn much more about the candidate than just looking at a resume, which is a waste of time. The key $1 million question, of course, is what percentage of the candidates will opt out, will say, screw this, I'm not talking to some AI agent. And even myself, I thought that number would be pretty high. The number was like 5%, meaning 95% of the candidates were willing to engage in an average 25-minute phone screen with an AI voice agent, not video, just voice. And of course, the company, like I said, got such a wider net of candidates and learned so much more about each candidate in an in-depth, structured, well-thought-out 25-minute phone screen. Remarkable. Right? Even a year ago, 6 months ago, that would have been unheard of. So I think the candidates' expectations are changing, right or wrong, good or bad, I don't know. That's a judgment call. Employers are changing. Recruiters are changing. I guess my headline is, hold on, because in another 6 months, it's going to be completely different again. I've given up even trying to prognosticate what it might look like.
Right. So I didn't even know about that. And
it just was released this week, yeah.
The percentage of people that said that they were totally fine with it is, to me, it's shocking. And I'm with you. I preach about the pace of change all throughout business, especially when it comes to talent.
Right.
Yeah,
and these were white-collar professionals, Rob. These weren't like frontline workers,
right?
Walmart jobs. These were average 100K and up. So,
right. So now, if we think about that for a second, our audience is business owners. They have a lot of things that are on their mind because talent isn't the only thing changing. Everything's changing, right?
sure. Yeah.
Really going to put you on the spot here. How do they think about staying on top of this? Now, look, in the larger small businesses, they have an HR person. They might have a firm that they rely on, a company like yours or something. If you're sitting down with a business owner, how do you suggest that they keep track of, more important, forget the AI example for a second, but how do they keep track about how talent is changing and how that's going to affect, let's just say, their hiring process?
It's a great question. Someone gave me this advice a long time ago, and it kind of proved to be true, which is talk to a kid. Like, talk to a 20-year-old, talk to a 25-year-old, and understand how different millennials and Gen Z and whatever the next one is going to be are in the way they think and what they look for. When I was coming up, people optimized for how much will I make and that type of thing, and now that's like question number 9. It's more about work-life integration and career path and things like that. Don't focus on trying to keep up with the technology. It's become impossible to do so.
Yeah.
I'd focus on really understanding the insights of the psychology, which is what recruiting and hiring, I think, is all about, and business is all about. And to do that, talk to a 20-year-old. I mean, that's the best advice I have. And then, of course, use LLMs, whether it's Claude, Chat, whatever, as a thinking partner. I've found some of the best value in these tools is to ask it those kinds of questions. Say, hey, over the past 24 months, what does the data show? Show me research of what was the most important to people and what's the most important now. And it's great at summarizing those things. But trying to subscribe to email newsletters to keep up with it is just a waste of time.
Yeah, except for yours and mine. Yeah.
Especially yours.
So let's jump ahead a little bit. You've placed over 4,000 top performers.
Me and my company, yeah.
Yeah, take the credit, Jeff. I don't give it out often. How much, two-part question, how much of a company's success is determined by who they hire? Let's just stop there because there's a lot there.
Yeah. Of course, I'm biased, as are you, and so it's easy for me to say it's the most important thing. So set that aside. The research, the data, any study you can get your hands on, and I'll give you one example, confirms that people issues or talent selection is the number one driver and also the number one cause of business failure. It's not product market fit, it's not running out of money, it's not your competition, it's not am I using AI? All those things are important, but the most important is, do I have the right people on the bus? You can go back to Jim Collins and anything he's written to understand why. And yet, surprisingly, most business leaders spend a minority of their time on that stuff, which I've never really understood. Maybe it's not fun, not sexy, I don't know, but it would seem like if you spend the majority of your time on it, like Jack Welch did at GE, the business results follow.
Yeah. So let's jump to a conversation we had before we hit record, which is, it seems to be there's a perception between how good business owners are at hiring and how good they really are. Now, you work with them, right? Because you tee up candidates for them, and then you've seen this really close, and I have as well. Yeah. So what does that gap look like? Are business owners really good at this or not so much? And what has been your experience?
I'll broaden it from just business owners to business people. Okay. Although business owners are some of the worst offenders, but I'm not trying to single them out. A VP of marketing, a CFO, it could be any leader, department head, business owner, and surprisingly investor, professional investor, a venture capitalist, a private equity investor. I would say the vast majority think they are pretty good at it. And especially as you age and you get older and you've done more interviews and you've hired more people, I think it's very easy through pattern recognition to develop a false sense of security. I think it's true with anything in life. I've had more whatever at bats, and so I think I know. I think I know the answers. And then people get sloppy. They start to wing it. They start to review the resume 2 minutes before the interview. They start to make up interview questions to play stump the candidate or to entertain themselves, because let's face it, interviewing and hiring can be pretty monotonous, pretty boring. When the data says it's not supposed to be fun, it's not supposed to be entertaining, you should ask, as I do, the same interview questions over and over and over so that you have a basis of comparison and can develop a body of work, if you will, versus random questions to different people in different orders and checking different references and a much more scattershot approach. So I would say the delta is pretty big in my experience. That said, there are people that are amazing at it, that treat it as a science, that are disciplined and structured. I think engineers, surprisingly, make some of the best interviewers and leaders, maybe not the most exciting conversations necessarily, but man, they are structured and disciplined and they're looking for the right things in many cases. I'm generalizing. I guess the headline is we could all be better, myself included, and I've done tens of thousands of interviews and I'm still blown away every day by something that I've never heard before, that I've heard for the first time.
Right, but let's just recap what we just heard, which is talent is going to be the biggest determinant of your success. And there's definitely a gap between how good business owners and I guess other professionals think that they are in hiring and how good they really are. And
I think here's the irony. With all of the talk about AI, which has monopolized all of our mindsets, it seems like, since COVID, all we thought about was COVID, and now all we think about is AI. Ironically, I think it's going to make the human piece even more important, or even more of a differentiator, because technology, your competitors can copy what you've done within a couple of days. It used to be a couple of years, then a couple of quarters, and now it's like a couple of days or hours. An app launches, and a week later there's 5 identical apps. So, and it's becoming, or will become, as token costs come down, it will become basically free or close. So it seems to me that the only differentiator remaining is the people that you put on the field and know how to use that technology and learn faster than the competition and iterate faster than the competition and test and make mistakes and are better at analyzing data, asking the right questions. So I'm actually thinking that the people part will become more important than AI or the technology part. That'll just be table stakes.
Yeah, I would say it. I've said it a little differently, but it's the same thing, which is AI is going to mean that you got to get the hiring part and the people part right even more so, 100%. It's not the opposite. It's not like, oh, you might need less people over time, by the way, depending on your growth, but there's going to be more of a need for great people, not just good people.
The reviews are in, and leaders are calling Rob Levin's new book a game changer. The New Talent Playbook, the ultimate guide to building your dream team, is now available, and it's your roadmap to winning the war for talent and scaling with total confidence. Don't just take our word for it. Order your copy today and see why it's a must-read for every SMB leader. Find it on Amazon.com or learn more at thenewtalentplaybook.com.
I want to talk about company culture. What role does a company's culture play in their success in great hiring?
In my experience, it's 50%. Problem, I think, in the question is the word culture is just so squishy and ill-defined. But setting that aside, I know what you mean, and I think you're talking about the feel of the place, the DNA of the people.
The water they swim in. The water that your employees are swimming. What does it feel like? Is it chlorinated? Is it warm? Is it hot? Is it cold? Right? Yeah.
Great analogy. Perfect. I think it's 50%. So when I assess candidates and work with our clients to assess candidates, we weight fit with the role 50%. They got to be able to do the job. Otherwise, what are we doing? I got a business to run. But then we weight the pool, the aquarium that you just described, the DNA, 50% as well. And the reason that's so important is, and I made this mistake early in my career, I was much more 80-20 or 90-10, like I think many people are, because it's easier, it's sloppier. It's just show me someone that can do the job and hire them. The problem is now, as you know, the job changes in 3 weeks or 3 months. And then what are you left with? Someone whose skills and competencies were perfect for this role, but not perfect anymore, and they don't fit our culture, DNA, whatever you want to call it, I got a complete mismatch and problem on my hands. So I'm convinced it's 50-50, and I could be convinced that in the future it might even start to move more than 50-50 towards DNA culture than what it was in the past. I'd be curious on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, very much so, and it's been a part of our process to make sure there's a cultural fit, and we're actually going to amp that up some more. Because
it's very hard to do and to assess, but many people, I think, don't even try.
Even if you just try, you're already creating an advantage, I believe.
Yeah.
And avoiding some big potholes. So I want to stay on culture, but I'm going to shift it a little bit. You know, cultures can be different. You can have good cultures that are different, right? But let's just make the argument that you can kind of tell the difference between a good company culture and a not so good one. Okay? Is that fair? Are we good there?
I think I would use the word healthy. I think you can tell
let's go with healthy.
Yeah, I think you can tell that pretty quickly.
Let's say very healthy is on one end of the spectrum and dysfunctional is on the other,
Correct.
Right? And there's a whole bunch of companies all over that spectrum. To the extent that the company is in the healthy category versus the dysfunctional category, how does that help them hire better people?
Well, I'm even going to worry about the terminology healthy or dysfunctional. There's a lid for every pot.
Yeah.
And I have worked with clients where it's a vicious, sharky kind of culture. Like, I wouldn't want to work there. But it works for them, right? So who am I to judge? I'm not working there. I don't have to worry about it. Yet they attract people who are relatively sharky, sharp elbow, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. And they do well there. The compensation plan drives that behavior, reinforces that behavior. It's not partnerly, it's not collegial, but man, they beat the numbers every quarter. So who is it for me to judge that that's not healthy? I would just say that's not for me. And then I have clients where it's the other end of the spectrum. Everyone's nice and friendly and soft and fuzzy and they hug, but it's not a performance culture. It's too collegial, it's too collaborative. So you know what happens next. Decision making is slow, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I agree with you. It's a spectrum. But it's hard for me to apply judgment to that because who am I to say what's good or bad? It's more a question of, are we recruiting people who match that DNA culture, your aquarium example? And that's where I think people get into trouble, is they hire people who can do the job but don't match the organization. And the body just rejects the tissue or the implant, whatever, organ transplant. That's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah.
And that's why it needs to be weighted like 50%.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense and great explanation. So in all your work with Recruit Rockstars, what's one counterintuitive insight about identifying top performers that surprises even the most experienced hiring managers?
I'll go with one that's very basic, and I know I'm like a broken record on this, but it doesn't seem to be changing anyone's behavior, not many people. Research shows, and my experience validates this, that interviews are one of the worst predictors of how someone will perform on the job. For many, many reasons, which I won't elaborate or I won't bore you with, but one of the obvious ones is the person is telling me what they've done or what they're going to do in this job versus showing me. And there's a big difference. I can talk a good game. Salespeople, arguably, are one of the worst offenders or best offenders. Right. They're great talkers, many of them. So interviews are one of the poorest predictors, according to research. However, they are the number one most used, most common, relied upon method of selecting people. And so to me, that's just, that delta is like mind-blowing. What is the best predictor is a test drive, a project, a work sample, whatever you want to call it. No matter what the job is, whether it's CFO, software developer, sales rep, it doesn't matter. If I can see you in action, even for an hour or a day, I have a much higher likelihood of knowing whether you can do the job or not. Not perfectly, but do they have the basic skills and competencies? And by the way, I will learn a lot about your DNA as well during that process. So that is the single best predictor, yet fewer than 10% of companies use it consistently. So that to me is like a shocker. Like, you can kind of forget everything else, and if you throw away the interviews, and obviously you can't do that literally because you can't test drive everybody. It takes a while and there's work involved. But maybe AI phone screening or interview screening will become much more accepted and more commonplace as the young folks age, and that will become the top of the funnel, which opens up a much broader pool, so I can spend my time test driving, working with candidates, as opposed to interviewing candidates, because interviewing sucks for everyone involved. But right now, it's the state of the art.
Yeah, yeah. And then what's your feeling then for that hiring process on assessments?
I'm not sure I understand. How do you mean?
Assessments, so...
Do you mean like test assessments?
Yeah.
Written assessments? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not very favorable. I've been burnt many times. I've tried many. Most are horrific. They're not validated or back-tested to know if they're worth the paper they're written on. So it's really only a pretty small pool of assessments that are even viable. And even then, they've been shown to be fair predictors. They're not awful, but they're not great. Mm. But the biggest thing, honestly, Rob, is virtually every one of my clients that does written assessments ignores the results anyway. So the result says, don't hire. They hire the guy anyway. Or the test results say the opposite. And so I'm like, why are you spending your time and money on these assessments? Many aren't cheap. And you're losing candidates because many passive candidates refuse to spend time on it. So you're losing great candidates for something you're ignoring anyway. So generally, I'm pretty negative on them. I understand why some people take comfort in it, but just know that most of them have not been validated and back-tested with a large enough sample size that it's meaningful. There's a lot of garbage, especially online quizzes, online tests, all that stuff.
Right.
Thanks for listening. The New Talent Playbook podcast is brought to you by Work Better Now. Don't forget to review, subscribe, and download the workbook for this episode at the link below. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on LinkedIn at the New Talent Playbook Podcast or visit thenewtalentplaybookpodcast.com.